Net Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. Beer Net Radio.
Mother, you killed the man.
We're battling over host.
I know.
All
Hello.
right.
Hello, Craig.
How are we doing, gang?
Hey.
We've got myself, Harry Schuhmacher, and my co-host, Harry Schuhmacher.
Yeah, I know I like seeing both Harrys here. I mean, you know, there is a better looking Harry. I'm just gonna say that. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave that alone.
And
Thank
smarter.
you, Craig. Oh,
Yeah.
start.
I mean,
Man.
Christmas
I'll take a look,
comes
Jen.
early.
Yeah, well, Jen, you're giving good room rater there. I'm telling you what, that is looking very, very good. That's
Hey, do you see my infamous hand chair
that's fantastic.
in the back there?
It's the invisible hand. Yeah.
So
I get lots
bougie.
of comments on that one. So
Yeah.
No comments on my studio, my professional lighting.
Okay, so I'm digging that. I'm digging
no.
that. I mean, I think it looks like you're spinning discs. I mean, for sure.
Either that or I'm a 16-year-old gamer.
It's totally hip hop Harry. I like that. That's good.
Listen, thank you for being on BeerNet Radio. This is Craig Purser, the president of the National Beer Wholesalers Association. I'm sorry, the National Beer and Beverage Wholesaler Association. Welcome, Craig.
Yeah, well, it's still National Beer Wholesalers Association. We didn't jumble up the name, but it's NBWA, America's Beer and Beverage Distributors. So it
I
kind
got you.
of rolls off the tongue once you get used to it. But clearly,
Okay. So it's more of a
if you're paying
tagline.
attention at home, yeah.
Okay. It's just for us, our industry consumption. Because you know what? No matter what you sell, it takes a lot of beer to make it.
Amen. I'll drink to that.
All right. Well, you know, we had you on, Craig, because next month we're all going to be up in Chicago for the NBWA annual convention, and you know we've been at home for 2 years, and so that you know we had one last year, but I think we still had Omicron out there, so this is really the full Monty. So can you give us some pre-game highlights?
Well, you know, Harry, we're excited about this. First and foremost, you know, milestones matter in this industry, and this is the 85th annual NBWA convention. And this year, it's not the trade show; it's the product demonstration showcase. And we're going to be at the Big Hyatt on Wacker Boulevard in Chicago, celebrating 85 years of coming together. We've got, in addition to the product demonstration showcase, which is sold out, by the way. We're going to have 19 educational seminars. We're going to have 2 full mornings of general session content that are going to include a wide variety of industry leaders. And you know, the thing about conventions is they are times of celebration. And as challenging as the last 24 to 30 months have been, I do think this industry has some things that are worthy of celebration.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that. But the product showcase is sold out. I mean, that's kind of not surprising because the trend around is everybody wants to get on independent beer wholesalers trucks. And what is can you give us kind of the flavor of what that's breaking out? Are there a lot of like a new seltzers and RTDs?
Yeah, you know, this is always an opportunity for showcasing new products, but it's also an opportunity for showcasing new goods and services. I mean, we certainly talked about this at the convention last year, and I think it's been a theme of the last 12 to 18 months is just kind of the expansion of the beer and beverage category. You're right. People want on beer distributors' trucks. And that means, you know, everything from new products and new traditional beers to new seltzers, to new ready-to-drink cocktails, to non-alcohol products, energy drinks, soft drinks. We're watching all kinds of things wanting onto these trucks. We're also watching soft drink manufacturers want to get into the alcohol space. But I think all of this, say it again.
I said, you don't say.
You don't say.
First I've heard of this. Outrageous.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting way to watch the industry, you know, expand as we're building towards this big kind of milestone celebration and bringing everybody together.
I heard that you have a keynote speaker. Was Fran Tarkenton already taken, or?
Now, I think Troy Aikman, everybody knows he is actually from Hennessy, Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, I say this to my friend from the University of Texas. We kind of have a thing that goes on at least once a year. And Troy actually grew up in Henrietta, Oklahoma, which is about 30, 40 miles south of Tulsa, where I grew up. We overlapped for his redshirt freshman year, or his first freshman year, eligible year. And I was a freshman. We took one test together. And of course, he went on and was an early transfer that went on to UCLA and NFL stardom. And the Oklahoma Sooners won the national championship.
And you're president of the beer wholesalers. So who won? You know, who came out ahead? I'm not saying it's a tie.
Look, Harry, we're not in the picking of winners and losers game. I think we're all winners.
Well, I know that I am. I don't even know how I'm here still. And I mean, good Lord. Well, all right, good. So Troy will be speaking. He'll be providing the keynote on day 2. We're excited about his new product, number 8, which is for the places it's launched. I was talking to some of my family that's in Texas that we're enjoying it this summer. It's out there. I think if you've ever seen Troy Aikman speak, he's a business guy. He's got some great kind of wisdom that he, maybe learned and perfected winning some Super Bowls, but he also is very, very savvy when it comes to business. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about why he decided to enter this space and some of his observations related to the industry. Brendan Whitworth, we're extremely excited to have from Anheuser-Busch. He has not given a keynote at our meeting before, as he's still relatively, about a little bit better than a year in that chair. But doing a great job leading that company. We're very excited about hearing from him. We're going to hear from a panel of industry experts and leaders that are kind of a interesting grab bag of experts in both kind of working smarter and how you can make some enhancements to your business. I think kind of a subtext of the theme of this meeting and some of the content we're trying to develop is around working smarter. When I talk to beer distributors, wherever they're from, 2 things that are top of mind are increase in cost and the challenge in recruiting and retaining good people. It's people and it's expenses that are kind of the name of the game. So between the seminars and some of the general session content, we're extremely excited about what we're going to be doing to speak to exactly that.
Cool. I'm curious. Hey, Craig, how's your lineup, your turnout turning up?
Turnout is really, really strong. We're excited. Chicago. We're in Vegas every other year, and we're on the road for the next year. And we're thrilled to be in Chicago. Chicago's kind of become the de facto capital of the American beer industry with so many suppliers headquartered there. We're kind of, our joke is we're gonna invest in a condominium or a timeshare there because there's so many different meetings there. It's our hope going forward that we're going to be able to have more co-location around our meeting. We're thrilled that the Beer Institute is going to be hosting their meeting starting on Tuesday afternoon as our show closes. So we think that's going to be that's a positive. We have a number of suppliers that are doing some sideline meetings, bringing people together, but we're expecting a really strong crowd as people are anxious to come in, see what's new in the industry and learn a thing or two.
That's right.
I did see that Mike's is having their meeting right before, and I think I'm attending that and the Beer Institute. So I'll be in Chicago for like a month and a half. I might as well just move there.
Yeah, no, I think that could work. It could be kind of a northern outpost for BeerNet.
Yeah, in the summer.
Don't forget the Alliance for Women in Beer on the tail end as well.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that was the next thing I was going to talk about. And we're thrilled to kind of see the inaugural kickoff of this leadership conference for women in the beer industry, the Alliance for Beer. And Jen, this goes without saying, you did a wonderful job last year of kicking off at least the first meeting of that group. And it's been exciting to see how much great work you guys have been doing. This is what's leadership focused, and you guys have let me be in on a couple of the meetings, but it really is exciting. I think together with NBWA's kind of distributor focused brew initiative, which is building relationships and empowering women. Both of these programs are providing networking opportunity, professional development opportunity, educational opportunity, and a way for people to come together. And the thing about both of these initiatives is they're not just for women. They're for anyone that's interested in empowering and providing, some support for this powerful initiative. I mean, one of the things, and Jen, this, that I think all industries are facing is competition for people. And, that's top of mind. Statistics indicate, and it doesn't matter if you're talking to Harvard Business Review, or you're talking to McKinsey, or you're talking to any of the leading consulting firms or econometric analysis, those companies and those industries that have more women in leadership and in management and in their employee ranks, they're better and they're more successful. So at every single turn, we're trying to remind folks that the more that your C-suite, or the more that your management table looks like your marketplace, the more successful you're going to be.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Craig. They hired you for a reason, man. So, but I'm looking forward to it because our lineup is incredible, with people from, males and females from all of the top companies. And, we've got Malika from Constellation. We've got Tom Day from Reyes. We've got category management from different companies. We just got lots of heavy hitters, and MSJ from Molson Coors, of course, and just, it's going to be a great mix. And Kim McKinnish, I have to, tip my hat to her. I don't know how she does everything that she does, but she does so much. And she spearheaded this whole thing, of course, with JB from Molson Coors. So it's been so great to work with these ladies and, men in the industry, because there have been a lot of male champions who want to see this through, because to your point, not only just, being nice to people like me, but also it makes sense for profits. It makes sense for management,
It's not, I think it's beyond making sense. It's essential. For the first time in our lives, I'm going to talk about this in my speech at the convention, we have a dynamic that we've never had, where a working person can quit a job on a Friday afternoon and get a new job on Monday morning, and they might be making more money. That has never been experienced in all of our lifetimes put together. And so what are we doing as an industry to recruit and retain people against this backdrop? We also have another phenomenon that's going on that's it's working remotely. You guys are able to do that. We're able to do that to a certain extent. Beer distributors can't do that. You can't deliver beer and warehouse beer from your living room couch. You can't take those calls. You can't make those sales calls necessarily from your guest room. So the whole dynamic is been turned on its head. So what are we doing to build the cultural needs that people have? Because there's a lot of hardworking people that want to come together. They want that structure. They want to have an office environment where they can go and be a part of a team. But I think this is kind of mission critical as it relates to our industry, because we've got to be focusing on the best and the brightest for the future.
Yeah, ignoring 50% of the population, you do that at your peril. And I appreciate the hard work that Jen's put in on this, and the whole brew initiative. Jen herself, not to glow you up here, but you were at an early, you've been doing this for over 10 years, and you've seen the industry evolve from terrible to less terrible for women. I'd say we're at the less terrible now, but we're still not great. And so, any progress we can make, I think, is good on that front. And to your point, Craig, about employees, I ran across a YouTube video last weekend, and about how it was a driver basically saying how he games the food service against the beer guys against the cola guys, and he just hops from one to one, because he's a CDL driver, and he's gold. And and so when he gets mad at somebody at his job, he just goes across the street, and it's a huge problem. And so any way we can make beer more attractive to those guys is crucial.
Well, and again, there's certainly some things that are cultural, and there's some advantages that this industry has had, and it does have, and it's kind of a family type attitude. It's a familial structure. I mean, I always tell people, this industry puts a lot of groceries on a lot of hardworking Americans' table every single week, but we're doing that with a lot more competition. So what are we doing to put forward some of those things that are a little bit different than, a publicly traded entity that's working for a quarterly dividend? What are we doing to talk about some of the initiatives that we're supportive of that are giving back to our communities? What are we doing to talk about things that are also important to people, which include community service and, being part of a bigger team? And I think being more inclusive with those employees and with those leaders, that's the name of the game. And remember, the person that answers the telephone is a leader. The person that loads the truck, that picks the order, is a leader. And, us helping to, address some of these challenges right now, I think, like I said, I think it's never been more important.
As you know, my youngest son, Wyatt, is working part-time at a beer distributorship in Austin. He's been merchandising all summer, and he just got switched to the warehouse. And I asked him about it. He said, he goes, I had no idea how complex it is behind those walls. He's working at Brown, I should just say it, a large AB distributorship, and they have conveyor belts and all that bullshit. And, he's just like, I thought that the beer came in, you just kind of let it sit there and then you just picked it. But no, it's a pretty complex situation there. And he's excited. I think he's actually going to enjoy the warehouse more than merchandising, which there's a lot of things more pleasurable than merchandising, I think.
Well, but part of the other things that we have going for us is this is a fun industry, and we've got to lean into that. This is not, and there's nothing wrong with folks that work in financial services. God bless them. But I'd rather talk about a new and innovative, refreshing beverage that's something to be celebrated, that brings people together, than a whole life insurance policy. Color me crazy. I mean, I just think that's more interesting. And I think a lot of people do. So we've got to be thinking in some ways about some of the old attributes that were wonderful about this industry, while embracing some of the things that I think employees and working people are interested in and what they value going forward.
Like cleaning taps. I mean,
yeah.
who doesn't want to do that? It's a lot of fun, because you get to sample, make sure it's cold enough and shit like that.
And it's, it's kind of interesting because, another issue that's one off of this, but that a lot of businesses are talking about, is the whole notion of sustainability. And, we've recently put out a white paper in partnership and in an effort to, and we're gonna be talking about this with Molly Riley, who's leading that initiative at the convention. But the whole notion of sustainability includes efficiency, and efficiency goes right to what we're talking about as it relates to increased costs. And what are our member companies doing to drive greater efficiencies? What are they doing related to alternative fleets where that makes sense? What are they doing with relation to solar, particularly in light of recent legislation that's been passed? Are we all taking advantage of all the many and varied incentives that the government has put forward as it relates to driving greater efficiency and sustainability? So all of this, I think, is going to be part of that market basket that we're going to be talking about.
Craig,
That's
can
right.
I put you on the spot for a second?
I hope so.
Do you, this may be a stupid question, but that news recently came out that you can't buy a gas powered car in California in 2035, I think it is. I mean, is that going to be the same, I assume, for, delivery trucks?
The practical reality of that is we're not to a point in California where you have a combination of urban concentrated areas and big geographic spaces to where that's even a serious proposal right now. So when folks call me or bring that issue up, I'm kind of like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. People don't realize Kevin Bacon was in Animal House, but at the end, when the whole thing goes to shit and they're having the parade at Faber and, you know, the guys are raising hell, young Kevin Bacon is leading the ROTC group, and he turns around and says, "Everyone remain calm." And that's my, you know, kind of admonition to folks that are following this proposed California issue. We don't have the technology, for instance, to, you know, haul a 53-footer up mountains and valleys in California. That's a silly proposal right now. But the whole notion of driving greater sustainability, I think, is in front of us. And so we're going to, all this stuff's on the table. All of this is up for consideration. So investing in and looking at diversifying your fleet might be the best hedge for something that we experienced this summer, which is $6 diesel. My God, when you have that kind of a shock to the system, it means you need to think about things a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And for those that have been able to do that where it makes sense, I think they were very glad that they did.
We actually recorded a podcast with Molly Riley, and that you can watch by clicking right here. And she does talk about, you know, obviously, you know, we're, like you said, we're years away from having an electric route truck, and especially a long haul. But, you know, for the van fleet and company cars in the next few years, it might be, especially with, like you said, the government assistance in this new bill, might be time to update your fleet to electric if you can. Might be cheaper. You know,
well, and that's the thing on all this stuff. There's a business case to be made, and so you got to consider it. And so you look at it and you balance it out, and you don't shift it all overnight because that doesn't make sense anyway. But maybe you add to your mix as a hedge. You know, in Molly and Double Green, is had a brain freeze. I was not able to think of her entity, but we were real pleased with the work that was put together. There was a lot of distributor input. There were some best practices. There was some great kind of, you know, naming names and looking at ways that people can do things different. And just, you know, kind of really important. But we kind of have a saying around here. We don't say sustainability without saying efficiency, because, you know, efficiency gets your attention. Sustainability, some people, that's not a word that resonates with them.
Right. I mean, it is about saving money, and that's, you know, this is a energy intensive business, whether you're a brewer or a distributor. Because why, Jen? Why is it so energy intensive?
Because beer is heavy.
Thank you.
Man. God, the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. I love it.
I mean, it gets back to that in every conversation. Beer is heavy, and that fact resonates on every other decision that's made in this industry. That fact is so important, and it's why DTC has been an issue. It's tough, and it's why, anyway, I don't want to get into more of that, because listen, if I start talking about how heavy beer is, I'll be on here all afternoon, and it's Friday.
But, you know, Harry, that's a great point. I mean, the whole notion, I mean, DTC is this thing that some in the industry are running toward without any kind of regard for the health of the system. And, you know, I was talking to a supplier, not in the beer space, but in the spirit space, that's very pro DTC. And I said, why? You know, and he said, well, the only reason you're resisting this is because it's circumventing your members. And I said, that's nonsensical. I said, when you're talking about selling a case of your whiskey directly, what you're skipping is all of those brand building retailers that took the chance on you 20 years ago when you were trying to get to market. And that's whose pocket you're picking. And he looked at me kind of like I had three heads, and he goes, well, I never really thought about that. And I'm like, how can you be advocating for this policy? And it was interesting because, you know, this same person is supportive of the discus supported position to put alcohol in the U.S. Postal Service, which is the most ridiculous idea from a policy proposal we've ever heard of. But those folks are continuing to try to jam that in. They're going to be working right until the last whistle's blown at the end of this legislative session. And aside from the economics and aside from the business stuff, it's rotten policy. The Postal Service is a government service. Do we want the government subsidizing alcohol distribution? I don't think so.
Well, and then they're just not set up to track back to check IDs and just the basics either, from a practical standpoint. Also, the thing with DTC is, from a policy standpoint, I get exactly what you're saying, but from a practical standpoint, it's never going to be the way that you build a brand or sell a brand, because it's heavy relative to its price, and the shipping costs are just going to eat you alive. And it's a good testing ground, to find out what pockets and what brands are doing well. But other than that, I don't see it as a way to build a business.
Well, and the other thing that we have to be reminded of when we talk about this, particularly as folks are, what liquor and what some beer suppliers are seeking to do is to expand their DTC privileges. I mean, in most jurisdictions, brewers have the ability to sell to the public at their tasting rooms. Increasingly, many of them have the ability to sell their product by the growler all the way to the case lot to take away. So what they're talking about is they're talking about additional shipping privileges. Right. And when you start talking about an unpasteurized double IPA and keeping it in a hot mail facility or in the back of a postal truck, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. I mean, you guys know this. The first time, and Jen, you know this certainly, when a craft brewer presents a distributor with a contract, they don't want to be in the climate controlled warehouse. They want to be in the cold box.
Yeah.
They want to be in the refrigerated storage and delivery, because they care about their products. They care about their product integrity. So to support something like this, to me, is just a big disconnect. And I really hope that over time, cooler heads prevail.
Yeah. I remember when 20 years ago, 25 now, worked at a beer wholesaler, the keg cooler was pretty small. It was only for draft. The refrigerated section, I should say, of the warehouse was only a keg cooler. And then we started getting European unpasteurized stuff. We put it in the keg cooler, and then we had to expand the keg cooler. And distributors now, the keg cooler is 10 times what it was in the 90s. And it's expensive to refrigerate that bitch.
No, that's exactly right. And another issue that we're going to be talking about at this meeting, and I think this is especially important, is the rapidly expanding solutions that are or enhancements to technology. This is an industry, again, when we look at the last 24 to 30 months, and we look at the advent of home delivery, and we look at the ease, and this is ease with safeguards, I think, in many cases, where states have been very diligent in helping consumers get product delivered to their home in a safe, legal, and licensed way. And I think so we're going to be talking about some of those practices and some of those advents. There's been an awful lot of interest lately in in the digital side of things, and how can we help retailers place orders in a way that's more effortless? How can we be more responsive to some of their requests to not spend as much time taking or giving orders, but spend more time selling? And I think we're very supportive of that. But we're going to be talking about some of that. We're going to be talking about some of the challenges that are out there. And some of this will be done in seminars. Some of this will be touched on in the larger general session meeting. But there'll also be a bunch of discussions, both at our board level and with at our members meeting, around some of the legalities of some of these new online platforms. Are they compliant? Are they offering a thing of value? Are they exclusive? If they're supplier initiated, are they offering equal coverage and opportunity for rival brands? All of these are issues that are top of mind as we're watching a number of new entrants come into the technology space.
Yeah, that is a minefield, because you have independent companies like Provi putting forth solutions, and then you have producers themselves coming up with solutions, and distributors coming up with solutions. And, regardless of the solution, the law is you can't induce a retailer. And, the exclusivity of a proponent of three-tier and tied house comes into play. And some of it's federal and some of it's also state by state. So it's going to be a while. It's going to take time to figure out if and how it is legal and what the parameters and guide rails are. Can you pay to have a better placement on the app? Is that an inducement to the retailer, even though it's going to a third party? These are questions that need to be answered. And I'm not a lawyer, but I've read a lot of lawsuits in this industry, and I can tell you right now, this is probably going to be an issue that gets litigated out for at least a few years.
Well, and I think the regulatory, you hit the nail on the head. Both the federal and the state issues are still real. A behavior that's prohibited in the brick and mortar world is not allowed in the digital world. It doesn't work that way. I think you and I talked separately about the Texas regulation or draft regulation that came out this summer. I think they did a very thorough job of not necessarily naming names, but putting out some serious concerns about some of these platforms, and as they relate to competition, as they relate to exclusionary practice potentially, as it relates to who owns the data. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm hearing more and more about from distributors is, look, if this is my sales information, I want to be the keeper of my own information. I don't want my supplier or my retailer to edge me out of this very important transaction. So all of these, I think, are difficult questions that we're going to be working to answer. I mean, lest we forget that just recently, meaning the beginning of this year, the government came out with a 68-page report on competition as it relates to this industry. We have an obligation to ensure that all of the practices that we're engaging in are legal and that they are competitive. So I think that's part of the continued necessity to buckle up on all these things. And maybe back to Kevin Bacon, everyone remain calm.
Right. Well, I mean, I remember my old boss, Joe Huggins at Houston Distributing, bless his soul. But, he was very, very protective of even his account list. He didn't want the breweries to have his account list. And, I think we've gone past that, but yeah, the data is so important. You don't want the provider to sell your data to your competitor, which, could conceivably happen. So, yeah, it is touchy, and it's going to get worked out, I suppose. Jen, any final thoughts from you?
I want to know if there will be wall-to-wall 8 available.
I don't know how the question is, I don't know if it's going to be wall-to-wall or not, because I don't know what their production is. My understanding is that it's doing pretty well in the markets where they are.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to have some. I can't make a bold pronouncement and say we're not going to be I will tell you this: they will not be running 8 out of the bathtubs at the Hyatt Regency. I assure you that.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
If you can't find it, Jen, it's just Miller Lite. So just kidding.
No, it's
gonna get a call on that one, boy.
Oh yeah. Andrews will not be happy with you, or Faust.
I know. Yeah, right. Well, good. Well, Craig, any parting thoughts for our listeners? Any comments or messages of hope?
Hey, look, there is plenty to be thankful for in this industry right now. I mean, when you think about some of the predictions at the beginning of this year, some of the concerns about what we might have been cycling, and some of the disruption, I think we're holding our own. There's a great deal to celebrate. And we are looking forward to playing a part in that. This is before you get to, so many other industries have had very different kinds of disruption. And I think we have a lot to be grateful for and a lot to celebrate. So October 9th through 12th, we will be in Chicago. There's plenty of room. We got a bunch of people that are coming. You don't want to miss out on what I think is going to be a wonderful celebration of 85 years of this fine organization and of coming together to celebrate our great industry.
All right. And where can folks go to register?
Well, they can go to www.nbwa.org, and you can't help but see information about this upcoming convention. You can register right online. We will still take your phone call and an old school check if that's how you want to do it. No problem. We do have a room block that's expiring next week at the Hyatt, so you'll want to get in while the getting's good, and be able to join us October 9th through 12th.
All right. Well, we'll be there with a crew. Jen, do I have a room?
Yeah. Oh, so here we go, Craig. Here we go.
Jen does not, she's
never
not
ends, does
working
it?
for me in that
Never
capacity, but
No,
you know.
it's not only because I've asked him 5 times. This is where I get to be Millicent now. I've asked you 5 times, Harry.
That's pretty good. That's very good. That's a good Millicent.
Millicent.
With a little more dramatic flair next time. That's good. I like that.
I love that girl. Oh
Dramatic
man.
flair.
Give her my best.
Well, I will, and she'll. I think she's coming too. So.
Good. No, she better. She better
All
be.
right. Well,
Okay,
good. Well,
you
thanks,
guys.
Craig, for being on. Have a good weekend. Thank you for drinking beer, and we'll see you in a couple weeks in Chicago.
Cheers, my friend.
All right. Take care.